I'm going to go to Jamil Saab. Jamil Saab, we've seen, we've spoken about the elections, we've spoken about the inauguration, as far as the presidency is concerned, of course, the oath taking, all of that. Now, how do you see the presidency as it shapes up? We also saw, tech giants at at the inauguration and the events up to that. How do you look at the way things are shaping up? Is there likely, and more relevant now, of course, we've also seen the spate of presidential orders also, and what do they mean? And let's talk about globally how you see things shaping up now when we talk about presidential orders that we've seen also.
Right, we've been discussing, that's right. And then now all what we've been saying and what been discussing, now we can see the impact of it, and what you have just asked me about, how is it going to shape up? Yes, that is the topic which the entire world is, trying to explore. Some of it we have already had the anticipation in view of what Donald Trump has been saying during the campaign, and what he has been deciding and what decisions he's been taking during his previous term of 2016 to 2016. So we have some indicators to connect and then see how all what he's been saying and all how it is going to shape up, particularly in light of the first night executive order which he has signed under Article 2 of the United States Constitution, subsection 1. So he has signed all those. What powers he has displayed those powers after taking over the presidency.
Ambassador Saab, I'm going to interject one of the questions. Ambassador Saab, the same question to you, as far as the foreign policy is concerned, as far as the direction of the foreign policy is concerned, whether we look at China, whether we look at Russia and Ukraine, the situation there, what kind of a shape, what kind of, do you see immediate things happening? Do you think that events are going to happen that are going to have an immediate effect on these these places in the world and the way things are at this time, whether we look at, again, Russia and Ukraine, or for example China?
No, it would have about three dimensions, but let me go through the first one, Gaza and the Middle East, basically. And then the second dimension is the containment of China. And third dimension of the topmost foreign policy of the United States these days is the Ukraine. So first thing first, because we are mostly impacted and affected by the Middle Eastern situation. So let me touch upon that first. I will just quote here the speech which Donald Trump has delivered on 25th, just about 2 days ago, one day. And in that he says, and it's really quite concerning, that relocating of over 1 million Palestinians to Jordan or Egypt, and he has asked for some allocation of the area for them. And I would like to remind your viewer that the same kind of requirement was given initially during Joe Biden time, but that was not made as public like a speech of a president. It was just behind the door, or it's a track to diplomacy, that they asked Sinai Desert from Egypt to settle the Palestinians, relocate them and settle them there. But at that time, Egypt was reluctant. And this time, let's see what way Egypt is going to agree and what way Jordan, because these two countries have been pointed out in the speech of the 25th, just about 2 days ago. And he's also asking the same speech with the same length and breadth of his. He said that the Arab nations are required to build the housing, and it's a regional problem of the Palestinian and Gaza. So he wants that expenses, which is about 50 billion, by the way, dollars of expenditure, which it's going to take, and more than 1 decade it's going to take to reconstruct or rehabilitate about 80% of the buildings, which is not even livable. And he also describes Gaza as a real mess. And I'll also draw the attention of your viewer that during last term, in violation of the Security Council resolution, he had annexed, he had recognized the Golan Heights as the sovereign territory of Israel. And Naila has already, my colleague Naila has already mentioned about the shifting of the capital. Again, that is not only against the Security Council resolutions violation, but it is also totally against the OIC Charter. And OIC Charter, in the very preamble of para 16 of the OIC Charter, it supports the struggle of the Palestinian people, and it opposes the occupation of Israel, and it emphasizes to empower Palestinian to the right of self-determination and establish sovereign state with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital. So that is violated.
Talk about Ambassador. When we talk about this, let me go to Munib. Munib, let me go to Ambassador. I'll come back to you, Ambassador. You know, for example, again, you know, if you heard Naila, she's saying that, you know, of course, with the person, the thing about the US is that when we started talking about the Palestine and Israel war, you know, it was something I don't, you know, I think maybe you said, or, you know, that there is that one country that can make a difference, and unfortunately or fortunately, that one country is the US. And that's not just about, and I hope I'm not taking a simplistic view here, but it's not just about Palestine and Gaza. It's about a host of other issues where a country like the US, or a country that is the US, can and has the potential to make that huge difference. So that is why, with a person like Donald Trump at the helm of affairs, it's extremely important to be able to understand how you know, his mind is going to work with regard to these issues, right?
Well, I think in order to understand this very point, we need to also understand what's the mechanism, how the influence and the pressure is put on the entire Congress, as well as the Treasury benches and the State Department and various other departments of the United States, basically, and even in UNO. So the Israeli lobby is very strong. So I'll leave it here because we've been discussing it. But let me attempt to respond to your question. Basically, yes, United States is the only power which matters in terms of Israel, and it's the only power which supports Israel, besides many other, but this is the only superpower, I would say, which supports Israel, without which Israel cannot stand on its feet, and without which Israel cannot really violate all the international laws. Israel cannot annex West Bank. Israel cannot unilaterally declare Jerusalem as the capital. So Israel cannot really flout with the International Criminal Court and with the warrants of the International Criminal Court. Israel cannot really flout with the Security Council resolution, which was passed as a result of 1967 war, 6 Days War, 1973 war, 1982 war, 2006 Lebanon war, 2023 Gaza war. All these, there are 6, last one Gaza, there are 6 United Nations Security Council resolution. Israel didn't really bother about it. So these are sufficient argument to say that all these the warships which is deployed in the Mediterranean Sea and in the Red Sea in support of Israel are there, and it is sufficient to say that the United States has supplied 8,500 tons of the explosive and arms and ammunition, which is against the United States' own constitution, that those weapons cannot be used by the recipient country to kill the civilians, innocent civilians. So what are we talking about? And then Oslo Accord. Donald Trump has just day before yesterday said that there should be one state theory. The ambassador who is going to now become the ambassador of the United States to Israel. You heard my colleague Ambassador Johan that he doesn't believe in two-state theory. So therefore, this Oslo Accord which was signed on the 13th September 1993 between Clinton and the Israel PM Rabin and Arafat, that seems that and that, by the way, this Oslo Accord has been ratified by the United Nations. But again, they are going to just throw it in the dustbin. They are this times it appears that they are in a mood, and then Donald Trump is not the same president which it was in the 2016. This time he has come with the power of lower house and upper house, all the powers he has. He has more experience of running a government. He has more experience to really make sure that the opposition and the bureaucracy.
Him, therefore, to be more aggressive, perhaps, if that's the right word to use. Ambassador, do you agree with what Naila is saying? She's saying that, it doesn't, and of course, she's very rightly pointed out the omission of someone like President Modi from the inauguration, and the fact that it has to be seen in the right context to quote her. How do you look at it?
But the bigger question is that how many head of states or head of government have participated? If we take a look at that, perhaps we'll get the answer. Not very many, perhaps one or two. But then even their foreign minister, the external minister, who participated in that. So that by itself is significant. But we're talking about the Quad, and we're talking about the India. India and United States have already, there were 7 different agreements among them, and the chiefly it's the Defense Cooperation Agreement, in which they have even extended them with the facility of their Gujarat base, naval base, and there are a lot of activities from that base. So I'll just leave that there by just building my argument that yes, they have signed agreement, and it's a strategic relation with India in the context of China containment. And to what extent that context Donald Trump would like to weaken, I doubt it, because the moment their Secretary of State, which is the Foreign Minister of the United States, Secretary of State Rubio, after taking over, after being ratified by the Congress, the first meeting he held was that of Quads. So that shows the significance, and that speaks the mind of Donald Trump and the government and the United States, that they do attach significance to this China containment, and therefore Quad. And then next meeting, what I'm expecting in coming few days is AUKUS meeting. So this would remain, to my understanding and to my analysis, this would remain as one of the topmost policies of the United States and also the Middle East. So we are affected. The Pakistan is affected by both of it, the Middle East policy of the foreign policy, as well as the China containment.
Ambassador, when you say that Pakistan is affected, what kind of changes do you anticipate? Let's be a little specific with regard to, particularly as far as, both the Quad and China also, and overall this relationship.
Now, here are the bullet points. Now, if the United States further become aggressive in implementing the containment of China, because in the diplomacy, basically it's the consistency and continuity. I can see that the United States is going to continue with their policy, and the consistency it will maintain. But how aggressive they are going to be in this context, that we will see it in coming few weeks, I would say. But then Pakistan would start having a little more pressure in that case to avoid some of the facilities extended to China, which in terms of giving the access to the Gawada. And I think if I leave it here, that would be better, because there are so many things. Gawada access would give China an advantage from about 14,000 kilometers, and it would reduce to 5,000 road kilometers, and it would reduce from 2 months to only 7 days distance. So that is, and then it would save them from OPAS deployment and the deployment of the other allied countries of the United States. So if I
Right,
leave it
right.
here, we will
Right, I
understand that
understand. I understand, Abbas Sahab.